like I don't necessarily dig the way things ended. I feel like personally, if I'm being real, if I'm just being real,
Right.
I feel like so for it to be wrapped up like this guy, kills me, then kills himself, it's kind of like it's done.
Right.
I felt so bad. I was like, yo, through the back after 10 years, bro. Hey everyone, Just Be here, and I'm going to be reacting to, spoiler alert, the most recent episode of Power Book 2 Ghost, which took place last week, and it sent somewhat shockwaves throughout the internet. And specifically, I'm going to be talking about, not the entire episode, but just the point in which R.I.P. Cooper Saxe. Now, I want to add into this, right? It's like, I was going to do a reaction video to it, recapping it, but when I was about to, literally the episode for the Crew Has It podcast, which is the podcast that Gianni and Michael, who play Tariq and Braden on the show, they have it and they recap every episode, right? So it dropped as soon as I was about to do a video about the episode. So I started watching it, and a good chunk of it in, I see our good actor Shane Johnson, who plays Cooper Saxe, or played Cooper Saxe. He said something that I found was pretty interesting, because I was feeling some kind of way for him, right? I was like, look, we all know at some point in time a character's just got to go, right? This, especially in Power, and particularly when you become a CI. But it's just a matter of when do you go, right? And how do you go out? The difference here is that he had been with the show for 10 years. Like, Power had been in production. He was an OG character. Power had been in production from like 2014, probably like late 2013, right? So he'd been, on the show. So he's in it. He's in it deep, OG. So my thing is, we know Cooper had to go eventually. Saxe had to go. How do you do it and honor the character, but also honor the fact that the actor put in that work, right? And make it make sense for the story. So I'm going to be reacting to what he said here. Pay attention to it, right? Pay attention to how he really feels about being deleted off the show.
So into the episode.
Yeah.
I want to know, because this is prior to when we shot it. How did they tell you? What was that process after 10 years? How did you feel?
10 years.
Like, we're curious, because it's tough. Like, that's hard, especially as an actor. Like, yes, you get to go do other stuff, but like, that's like,
you hear him inhaling. You hear him? He's like, oh, all right, here we go.
it's like losing a job. It's like losing family. Like, I bet you there's some people that maybe you were close to and now you're not on the show anymore, and then they don't even reach out anymore. Like, stuff like that happens. So I want to know, like, obviously, us three talk all the time. I'm curious, like, what was the process of being on a show for 10 years, then not there anymore?
Yeah, it is like, I mean, when you think about it, people think of Power, they just go, it's a show or whatever. But when you think about it in terms of the amount of, like, at this point, like half of Michael's life, he's been involved with this universe.
Yep.
Like damn near half your life.
Literally
like
half
next
my
year, it'll be half your life.
Mm-hmm.
And
I did a video on this about the potential for Michael Rainey Jr. based on something that he said a couple of months ago to leave the show after the end of next season. People are like, oh, no, you're crazy. He's just going to take a break. Okay.
And so my kids have grown up on me being on the show.
Mm-hmm.
Like they were 2 and 5, and now they're 16 and 13. It's
Yo.
crazy. They were tiny.
Right.
And so that being such a huge chunk of my life and identity, really, it becomes part of your identity. There's definitely a grieving process, definitely a loss, and that's only because it was so sweet. It was so such a big part of my life in such a positive way, and something that I'm extremely proud of, and I have to say, so thankful to Courtney for seeing at every turn. I feel like every season she managed to dig down further and find new levels for Saxe. And one of my favorite things was coming into Ghost was her giving me the family, even though it was just there for a hot second. Right. It colored the rest of. Because people still remember that. They've seen that family.
So funny.
People still call me Uncle Nancy, and then bringing in
Riley.
Riley. Was cool because it gave me like this sort of father figure kind of role with her, and anyway, so it just gave me more and more to play.
See how you
every
operate in a
year.
different part of the world. Like,
Yeah,
rather than just
and
And that's important to mention because if we really think about it, like if he'd been a main character since season 1 of Ghost, not Ghost, season 1 of the original Power, right? So we're now finally seeing in book 2 where they introduce, his brothers and his parents and his niece and so forth, right? And so now they're giving Cooper Saxe a background. They're giving him a family. They're letting us see more into his life, more so than we had prior 6 seasons of the first Power. If you really think about the dichotomy of that, one individual we didn't get, and I have to bring it up, guys, one individual that we didn't get to see actually have an origin story and see their background, their upbringing, and what made them who they are was Ghost. Think about it. We didn't find out about Ghost's uncle. I think it was until the second to the last episode of, not the second to the last episode, because they went 15 episodes for that. It would have been before he got shot, right? The episode before he got shot, or the episode in which he got shot, we saw his uncle. And we were like, Ghost has an uncle? But think about how important that was for you to be able to see where someone came from and him interacting with his uncle and his uncle recognizing him and saying he's proud of where he came from. So I think, seeing Saxe, at least get that treatment, it just, honestly, it leads more into the whole idea that there really was something going on behind the scenes about, how management felt, I don't know, maybe regarding Omari. Something, man, because the fact that we never got to explore his background to add context to this character who's the main character, but then we get other characters who we get to see their upbringing, their parents, their siblings and so forth. Anyways, that's just a whole mini rant.
and then illegal crazy shit.
Yeah, and it made things hard. Like so I feel like I built 10 years a character that's like peeling back the onion and finding more and more depth and finding more, and I feel like he becomes more unhinged and like I don't necessarily dig the way things ended. I feel like personally, if I'm being real, if I'm just being real,
Right.
I feel like, and it's not his fault. I dig Jordan, the guy that kills me.
Right.
Like he's cool. He's a cool cat. And he was kind of out of his, I feel like for him, he was going, what? I'm the one doing this?
Right.
Because it was Redman.
Right.
It was Redman. Mm-hmm. And in the culture, that would have been enough. They would have been like, well, it's Redman.
Yeah.
So I get it.
But
But because it wasn't, it was kind of like a guest star guy comes in and does this thing. And to me, it felt like it should have been Michael.
Yeah.
Or
I felt the same way.
It should have been Method. Because to me, or Tommy. I mean, definitely it could have been Tommy. But, if Method did it, you see, okay, now his hands are bloody. Now he has to turn to Tariq and go, dude, I need help.
Right.
And now he owes. And then you could just see, that's where my head was going. And so, so for it to be wrapped up like this guy, kills me, then kills himself, it's kind of like, it's done.
Right.
And
It could have been a lot more.
It was just so fast.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And
it's like, come on, bro. Like, he's saying, you guys got to be professional, obviously, with it, right? And it's like, turn the cameras off. It's like, bro, appreciate it, the opportunity, but what's good? Y'all, after 10 years of my life that I've dedicated into this character that people hate to love but love to hate, and you guys use a guest star to delete me off the show? He's saying he feels some kind of way. Like, and he's trying to be real smooth with it and real, tempered and, it has to happen, la, 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 la. But come on, guys. Imagine you in a situation and you're working or you're playing a role for 10 years, right? Significant part of your life. And at least if you're going to send me off with, some justice. Like Michael was saying, it could have been Tariq, right? It could have been Tommy. Anyone else. But you guys let Davis's brother, random character who we just met, who was played by another actor last season, and then he offs himself right after. It's like, what's really going on behind the scenes at Power, bro? Like, why are we so quick to dismiss actors and their characters for the sake of story? I mentioned this before, and I said that I think the pacing on book 2 is very horrible. I enjoy the show, guys. Don't get me wrong. I enjoy the show, right? I think the pacing is very, very bad. Things happen way too fast to the point in which it seems like it's more story driven than character driven. Like, write the story to a point, or write the characters to a point where I feel like, yep, this is definitely a good place to end this story for Saxe right now. Like, why does it feel like, no, we got to get to something bigger, but we got to kill off Saxe? Why was it that at the point where, if you guys watch the recap for episode 8, right, when they kind of play back, hey, previously on Power, blah, 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 right, and you guys saw at the end of it, it was a reel, like this whole reel of Saxe. And if you look at the last recap video I did, I said, the reaction video I did to the season 3 trailer, I predicted that they would take out Lorenzo. They took out Lorenzo. I predicted that they would bring back Lauren. They brought back Lauren. In my last video, I predicted that this is going to be Saxe's final season. Guys, I'm 3 for 3 right now. I'm telling you, this here is saying a lot about how they're writing the show. It's too fast. We're not getting emotionally gripped and invested enough in the progression of a character's story to feel satisfied when they're taken off the show. Like, Lorenzo was just like, I was like, what? Come on, really? You know what I'm saying? And then Saxe is like, I saw how they ended the recap, and I was like, this is going to be Saxe's episode, isn't it? And then when it happened, I was like, here we go. The point in which he was inside talking to Jenny, and Jenny was like, all right, you ready to do this? And he was like, yeah. And then the point in which later on in the episode, Jenny was like, F you, Saxe. I was like, wow, this is it, isn't it? And then when it finally happened, I just kind of sat back after the episode, and I was just like, it wasn't even a satisfactory payoff. Like, I don't know if they're in the writer's room like, oh yeah, we did a good job. I was like, no, not saying that we were in love with the character of Saxe. We like Shane. We love him as an actor, and like the character was someone that we hated to love and loved to hate. But bro, we want character-driven stories. It doesn't feel as if that should have been the proper end for him. The proper end would have been, watch what he continues to say here.
And there's always a rhyme or reason to it. It happened for a reason, right. and I'm cool with it. The reality is and
I'm cool with it. Listen, watch people's micro reactions, and I'm cool with it.
Cooper was more and more unhinged over the years because he just racked up L's from the beginning. Mm-hmm. Like, did you ever see Cooper Saxe win a case?
Never.
Did he ever like, do anything? So he never had a successful relationship.
Right.
I mean, she just walked all over his ass. Right?
We even got to see Cooper. Yeah, we even got to see Cooper be like fucking the jealous type and all of that.
Yeah. I mean, man, I at every turn for 10 years, at every turn, Cooper Saxe just is like losing, getting fired.
Taking L's.
For a while he got a raise here and there, but it was always kind of like sus. And then, eventually it's just losses, just L's and L's. And I think that never being able to catch, James St. Patrick, never being able to get Tasha, never being able to get you. And I think that over time, his methods of like going about it got darker and darker and darker.
Right.
He started caring less. Like, he was like,
yeah,
I got to get what I got to get.
Yeah. And so I think in this last episode, which I did really like, she says, this is going to blow your cover. Are you ready for that? And I think it's a really important moment for him to say, like, yeah, I'm ready for that. Knowing that he's staring down a barrel, potentially.
Yep.
And that's the thing that was interesting for me as I was going, but not from that guy. You know what I mean?
Just not from him. We had no problem with y'all taking out Saxe. Just not from this rando. Not from this rando. Like, honestly.
Right.
Like, it felt like the barrel I was staring down was from him.
Right. Well,
exactly right. It should have been Tariq. Or cross him over with force and let it be Tommy. Like, bring it 360. You know what I'm saying?
So do you think that's maybe like why they could have done it that way, is like maybe the obvious choices are too obvious, and maybe they're like, well, also there's so much.
Gianni, don't try to make the writers and producers seem all smooth and okay. Like, oh, maybe it should have been that way, You hear them think about it, like, stop. He's trying to be the politically correct guy. I don't want to paint the people here on the show bad. Like, bro, come on, man. A lot of the fans are asking the same questions, like, yeah, but like that, really? Like that?
story to tell in the show. Like there's so much happening in every storyline that like if it was like a whole Cooper Saxe thing, it would have had to drag in other characters, and sometimes it gets a little hard to storytell with too much going on.
But that's why you have a team of writers. They write a cohesive story that connects and has loopovers or lapovers, whatever it is, right? And it all comes together, and you're able to now see, all of these different plot points, this whole web of storylines and characters are now coming together so seamlessly, and it makes sense. And you, as the fans, you're able to sit back and be like, okay, yeah, okay, I see it. That it made sense now for that to happen at this particular time for Saxe. We get it now. But it's like the part about him being unhinged over time, like we see that, right? And we see him naturally starting to compromise more and more and more. And from the beginning of this particular season, I called out that he was the CI. I think it was obvious. I don't know why people were debating if it's Effie and all these people. I was like, it's Saxe. He's the one working with Davis, but still with Jenny. Isn't that obvious? So, bringing all that together, him making more and more compromises, I always knew that Saxe's ability to continuously compromise the law just to get what he wanted, to get Ghost at first, now get Tariq, was always going to be the undoing of him. Now, I see how they built up to it, but it's just the execution of it. I felt so bad when I saw him get shot through the heart. I was like, what? I was like, yo, through the back? After 10 years, bro? Through the back. Then through the heart. I'm like, oh my gosh.
So I think maybe that's why the Theo character was dying, and they're like, okay, this is like an easy way to kind of wash the hands of not having to have this storyline go into Tariq. He's already dealing with the West.
You're totally 1,000% right.
My dream would have been Saxe goes over to Force, goes to Force.
You guys see they cut something there, right? That was a sharp cut. Anyway,
does episodes over there and Tommy kills him in Force. That would have been dope.
Yep,
that would have.
But that is hard to the writers gotta be in sync with the Force production, and it needs to make sense in our storyline and their storyline. Why does he go there? Again, that's hard to pull off.
It's not that hard. You have conference calls. It's not that hard.
Yeah, and I think that I think that that was floating around for a minute, and I honestly thought that that's what might be happening.
That would have been fire.
And
so he was saying that the show was considering for a time now crossing Saxe over and sending him over to Force and making it all work where he would be over there in Chicago and trying to get Tommy over, and that would have naturally made more sense when you really think about it. That would have naturally made more sense. Like there was a ending clip at the end of season 1 of Force where we saw Blanca and then they were trying to connect some things going on there, but I guess we'll see what happens with that.
And I would have been totally down with that because I feel like the most apropos person to handle my ass was Tommy.
Yes, it is. You couldn't get Ghost, so you'll get the guy right next because you were trying to get a Rico on these guys from back in the day. So now if you couldn't get Ghost, okay, you can at least get Tommy, right? Or Tommy now would get you.
Right.
1,000%.
Yeah.
Like the person that should have put a bullet in Cooper Saxe, because he had to die. We know he had to die.
Right.
I'm not bitter about Cooper Saxe dying. Tommy should have done it.
Right.
Or Ghost should have come back for just like a minute and just.
yeah. His Ghost came back and
Ghost came back and he's like, "Woo!" He just scares me to death.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's the reaction to that clip right there, guys. And like I say, to me, a lot happened in that episode, but I think it means so much just to pay things off. Just do it the right way. And yes, delete the character off the show, but let's do it in a way where it makes sense. Like, can we stop writing the show so fast? It's so fast. Things are happening so fast. Book 1, like there was such a buildup of story, and it was like not slow, but it was enough easing into things episode by episode, season by season. When things started to come together, it didn't feel like, oh, it's rushed. Oh, this happened. Oh, I didn't like how this person died. Oh, I didn't like that. Like this here, I was like, I know why he had to go, but I feel more disrespect. And you can see the brother there too. He was like, I feel some kind of way, guys. I feel some kind of way, to be honest. Like, I get it. I got to say I get it because I got to be professional in the industry, but I do feel some kind of way about how that you guys use a guest character to delete me off the show. Anyways, guys, let me know what you guys think down in the comments. Like, comment, subscribe, all that stuff. And until next time.